Okay, and welcome back to the second part of the quarters theory whole number training. This is what we went over in the first video. Introduced some terms, major whole number, half point, whole number, and then the quarter point. We didn't talk much about the quarter point, but that's what we're going to do here in this video. Take a look at the chart now, and this is what we see we have mapped out. I've labeled everything nice and neatly. What you can do is double click on the lines. Once you have the lines in place, you can label them. So just a clear look at the chart and the points and figures, the price figures we have marked. 130, 125, 120. That's 1,000 pip distance separated by a half point. When you look at the points, just in this section of the market, these numbers and how price revolves around them, you can see a similarity to support or resistance. Like here, you can see how this price point served as a level and area of support where the market was being bought at a very low price. When you look up, you can see how there was resistance at this half point, or especially even near it with all these candlestick wicks over here. Now the idea is not just support, resistance. The idea is also how price travels to these numbers. You're going to learn that in the PDF. It's a different way of thinking. So not every trader is used to thinking how this concept works. We have to kind of shift the way we think with a concept like this, because there's a different way of thinking with it, not just thinking about support and resistance, but where price can go to based on these types of numbers. You can even see up here how we had resistance up here. Very, very spot on, very precise, very accurate. You can see how the market stops at this half point. And this is just a Euro USD chart that we're looking at from the past couple of years, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. So some of these prices alone served as that support and that resistance, or that potential target where price can be going. Look at what happened here. That's a whole figure price number that reversed for 2 months. Look at even how this served going forward. You can see how price finds these numbers. Knowing this when you get more experience, knowing this when you get better at trading is going to help you understand where price has these high probabilities to go. One last thing to pay attention to is, again, how we go from one number to another number, back to a number. See how many times these numbers are seen? That might be one thing you don't see here. So how many times does price actually touch these numbers, trade back to the next one, break through? When we broke through here, where did we go? We went up to the next number. Formed resistance, pulled back. Where did we go? Then we came back up. When we passed here, when price passed here, where did it go? Up to this number. So you're going to learn with this concept. If you study it fully, you're going to learn more about how this works. A lot of these videos, I'm going to show you how I do it, how it's helped me, more examples in some other videos. Let's do one more chart here, and we're also going to be talking about the quarters. This is USD Japan. So just another practice of how you do this. I always like to just start off with the major whole numbers. So again, major whole numbers up here, like 130. Now I don't have to zoom all the way out on my chart. That's not what we're doing. We're picking like just enough window that fills pretty much our chart screen that we can see. So down from 130, would be 120. Now you can coordinate it right to the exact number by double clicking on the line. 110, and then down here at the bottom. Those would be our majors, major whole numbers, major whole price figures. And down from there would be 90. So the half points are right in the middle of those. 95. I'll make this one a different color. That's one thing you can do. If you're trying to know which one's which, you can color coordinate it and make it a different color. Another half point figure would be 105. So by color coordination here, I know the black ones represent the half points, and then I know the blue ones represent the whole figures. So the last one would be 125, which is right here. Very precise reversal around 125. When price is near these, I consider, right now we have the majors and the halves on. I consider the majors and the halves to be the stronger ones. Price doesn't see these as often. So it's a very, very strong force and type of reaction that can be around them. Price isn't going to see the majors all the time. But when it does, there's high value around these. Right? There would be high value for these numbers up here on the sell side, whereas some of them can be looked at as lower numbers of value for the buy side. These are numbers that banks, institutions, the big pockets in the market value where they want to buy and sell, or where they want to take price to sell it. Remember what I just said, that little sentence that I just said, where price wants to be taken so it can be sold at a higher price. Because these numbers also kind of work like magnets. So now the quarters, the last thing I'll talk about here in this video is the quarters. So when we look at quarters, let me just zoom in. And now if we take the distance, I'm just going to put the chart like this. If we take the distance between 100 and 105, we break that in half. So what would halfway be? Right? 1, 2, 5. 1025. It's 250 pips up. These are what they call the quarter points. I'll make these ones just by color coordination. I'll make them red, so we know which one's which. That would be called a quarter. So again, 105, 250 pips up would be 75, 1075. That's another quarter. So again, same thing. 112.5. That's considered a quarter number. Banks, algorithms like to work near these numbers. A lot of traders with the bigger pockets like to work around these numbers, in and out of them, or target these types of numbers. This is where you can see a lot of entries where you might be studying entry points. Some of the best entries can come from is numbers like this. So there's a lot of lines on the chart. Looks like a lot of lines, but 3 of those lines are major whole numbers. 100 down here, major support. 110, 120. Right, where you get more frequent is the quarters. That's where you get more frequent price action, is those quarter points. Now the quarters gets more in depth in this because this is higher time frame. I've done this all in the higher time frame. So these serve purposes like your higher zones of support and resistance, levels where price is going to reverse from or come to. That's what these numbers serve as. If you just do this same practice that I did What I want you guys to do is do the same practice that I did on the same currency pairs. Right? This was USD Japan. I did everything on the monthly. Drop down to a time frame like daily and 4 hour, and look how price can react around these numbers through a period of time. You'll see a lot of action come from these areas. At the same time, study that PDF. So if we go back to the Euro USD chart, right, let me go to a weekly. So again, look at Euro USD. If you look at this chart again, like I showed you guys in my support and resistance training videos, I would take these areas and mark zones around them. Right, just like we did in the support and resistance training. Make sure, if you haven't watched the support and resistance training, to do so. This is kind of like the same practice that I did in the first videos of support and resistance, but something very similar. This time we're using the numbers. You can see the zones, right, that I've marked up on this chart match up with these figures, these whole figure numbers. They're all whole figure numbers at the end of the day. We would consider some of them major more than others, some of them more frequently seen than others. So if we're looking one last time at quarters here, right, we have our majors and our half points on the chart, but we have no quarters here. What would the quarters be on Euro USD? So let's start from the top here. So a quarter point, again, 250 pips down, right? Between these two, the 250 pip mark. So that would be 27.5. 27.5 would be a quarter. Quarter price level. In between here, 22.5. That would be your next quarter. So all the red lines I'm marking on my chart represent quarter points. Next one would be 112.5. Right there. And then the next one, last one here, 7.5. And then I guess for one more here. So again, you can see the ones that are labeled. The red ones represent quarters. Now do this exact same practice on your own with the two pairs that I did, so you can compare your chart to mine. Also add in a third currency pair, one that I didn't do. Choose between either AUD USD, GBP USD, or maybe your favorite currency pair. I just chose two main currency pairs to do this, USD Japan and Euro USD. Now when you do it, look for that support and resistance type of concept around these numbers. Go back, maybe even over here, and look how price reacted, but especially over here, because you can see there was more action around these numbers in there. We've seen price hit some of these numbers more than others. Like look at this. Resistance, resistance turned into support. There was a lot of action just on this number, more times than here. But one thing to pay attention to now, when you do this across a few currency pairs, just look at some smaller time frames. You know, I did all this on the monthly and the weekly. So like drop down to a daily and pay attention to how price can be very precise. Look around price and see how it's reacted around these numbers. And look for that support and resistance like concept, but also try to think about how price travels to these numbers, how it works from a half point up here. The half point was reached, we traded down to the quarter. back up to the half, back down to the quarter, you know, in between both of those until it broke out of that quarter point. Where did it go next? Major whole price number. Went down, pulled back, hit the major price again, and went right back down. Where did it come to? The next quarter. See, it's like price works in these blocks, right? If you notice how it can go from one to another, and that's what it's going to be talked about in that PDF. So I hope this video was some help, guys, on understanding more about technical analysis. I will see you guys in the next training.